Community centers are the center of everything that happens within the surrounding area around it. Community centers are where young people go to play sports, where they go to have special training in different areas. It can be anything from judo to soccer. It's a wonderful place for families to be. What people have to watch is that at community centers, that's where human traffickers often mill around just to get to know the kids, just to get to be involved in the sports. And human traffickers can be men or women, but usually they're young, real cute guys who belong to either a human trafficking group that wants to lure the young people into the sex trade, but what they do is they become part of the whole scene. And they get to know the girls, and soon some of the girls, especially the girls, fall in love because by this time the perpetrators take them out on dates and teach them how to lie to their parents. I know I've had instances where parents would drop their kids off at the community center and they'd give them a cell phone to call home if they needed anything, and then they'd call them and pick them up at the community center. And in the meanwhile, the human traffickers were getting to know the kids, and usually they're slightly older than the girls. And teenage girls, young people, children are at risk. Why? Because they're children. It's not their fault, it's the perpetrator's fault. It's not the parents' fault, it's the perpetrator's fault. But perpetrators do use these beautiful centers to get their victims. They make between $260,000 to $280,000 per victim per year. That's why they do it. But they do it in a very under the radar way. They do it to get the trust of the kids. And then pretty soon they're invited out to parties, and pretty soon they give them gifts, and it just lands up that the girls fall in love with them and will do anything they want. The only problem is there's some point in time when the perpetrator will say, you have to pay me back all this money and this is how you're going to do it. And if they don't do as they're told, they get beaten or worse. And often they introduce them to drugs to kind of numb the hurt, so they're able to go out and service men. And it's not only young men who do this, it's also young girls, because I had one case where quite recently where a young girl paid her way through university by luring her friends into the sex trade. Community centers are a place that should be safe. Most parents watch very carefully, but they also have to be aware of how the perpetrators work. And I think our young people need to be aware of how our perpetrators work. What I have seen is a lot of very good parents do keep an eye on their kids by dropping them off and picking them up. The problem is often the young people don't know what to look for. And I would say to young people, if somebody gets friendly with you very quickly, if they're slightly older, not too much older, if it's a cute guy or if it's a cute girl, traffickers are part of this whole group because it's all about money. And so what the young people have to look for is when they very quickly take them out to dinners, fancy dinners, they give them gold chains and fancy gifts right away. That doesn't happen in a real relationship. Young men and young women receive these gifts only after a while, after they build a relationship for a year or so with somebody. And so that's one tip that young people should be very aware of, no matter how friendly they seem to be. And when they start to coach you to lie to your parents, like after the parents pick you up and you go to the community center, and then you ask your parents if you can stay overnight at a girlfriend's, and if the girlfriend is in it. I had 3 girls who were lured at a community center by a trafficker, and so the 3 girls sort of backed each other up when they told their parents individually that they were staying at another girl's house for a sleepover. You have to be very careful. I think young people have to know how traffickers work. It's very, very brutal when the trafficker starts to say, you have to pay me back for the dinners. You have to pay me back for the gold chains. You have to pay me back for the bit of drugs I gave you. And you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, you're going to be sorry. I'm going to tell your parents. I'm going to tell your school. That's how they operate. It goes from being very smooth, very loving, very giving, to very brutal. So this is what young people have to know to protect themselves. I think it's very important for a whole community to work together to stop human trafficking. There's not enough police officers, there's not enough social workers, there's not enough caregivers to combat human trafficking. Education is our greatest weapon. And even today, being able to give this message to you at the community center is extremely important, because this bit of information will lead you to getting other information. Corporations like Alladin, corporations that are out there supporting awareness of human trafficking contribute greatly to helping this awareness get out. I went to Parliament for 11 years, 4 months to pass 2 bills that changed Canadian history. So now we have laws against human traffickers when they lure and when they traffic young victims or any victim. We also now can bring people back, Canadian citizens and permanent residents, from marginal countries where they don't have the law enforcement and judicial systems. We can bring them back and try them here in Canada when they traffic or exploit others abroad. So Canada has a lot of laws to protect our youth, but 93% of the traffic victims in Canada are born and bred in Canada. It's epidemic proportions. It ruins lives. I think that it's very important that education is our greatest weapon. It's very important that people, parents, grandparents, youth, become educated about human trafficking and how it happens here in Canada. And you can get a lot of information from my website at joycesmithfoundation.com. Simple, just go there and there's a lot of information. I think it's very important that you get the DVD, Human Trafficking Canada's Shame. It's very inexpensive. And take it to your schools and take it to your church groups and take it to your community centers and have groups watch it, because education is our greatest weapon. And we want to protect our youth. The safety of our youth is of paramount importance. Far too many young people are being trafficked every day. It's primarily girls, but there's more and more young boys now. So we have to be very careful that these perpetrators do not ruin young lives. Please take a moment to go to joycesmithfoundation.com. Make sure that you get more education about human traffickers and how they operate. It could save a life.